Well, let's take a look at where this conflict may be heading on a military front with our analyst, Sean Bell. Hello there to you, Sean. I was speaking to the IDF spokesperson a short while ago about the seeming shift in approach to be going from the north down to the south. It doesn't appear that they achieved what they wanted to in the north, does it?
No, and it was interesting listening to his answers to your questions because, he had to admit that they haven't achieved what they set out to do, but it was ongoing, the whole operation. But it's very difficult to see where they're going, how they're going to achieve those objectives. And part of the nervousness is always we're hearing from the IDF, we're not hearing from the other side, and increasingly become a bit sceptical about the narrative and the films that we're being shown. But the IDF so far have been focused on phase one of their operation, which is in, obviously, northern Gaza. It was very unclear what their military objectives were because it seems to be the initial phase was driven more by anger and a political imperative just to do something after that 7th of October date. But the three objectives that seem to be was seize Gaza City. They've done most of that above ground, it appears, but obviously the tunnels, the Gaza metro, almost certainly not. Second objective was to destroy Hamas. They evidently haven't achieved that yet. And the third objective was around the hostages. They haven't released those. So, and of course, the context of this is, meanwhile, there's been over 11,400 deaths, according to the Hamas-controlled Palestinian Health Authority, and the humanitarian situation is spiralling. Some footage here of some of the IDF moving through northern Gaza. And of course, also, at the start of this conflict on the 7th of October, really robust international support, particularly from the US and the UK, for Israel. But of course, as the casualties are mounting, as these military objectives aren't being achieved, the language is changing fast, and we can expect to see that increase in the coming days and weeks as Israel continues its military operation.
So let's talk about then what we're seeing in the south, residents there, some of whom are only temporarily there because they fled from the north, being told that they must go even further to a much smaller area closer to the Rafah border.
Yeah, the IDF claims they're going to expand their ground operation and they're going to chase down Hamas wherever they are. Clearly, they've been focused in the north, and eventually, inevitably, a lot of Hamas have moved south, so IDF are going to have to chase them into the south. Now, the IDF's already acknowledged that's going to be incredibly difficult because there's an increased population density down here, because obviously, where do they go? And as you say, at the moment, that although they haven't completed their operation in the north, they're preparing the ground in the south. We hear they've launched leaflets around Khan Yunis. All of that is designed to try to get the population to move west to Al-Mawazi there on the coast. But just imagine now, this is one of the most densely populated areas in the world, and now you've taken a load of people from the north to south, and now you're clearing this area and putting it right the way on the coast. It's very difficult to see how that's actually going to work. Why Khan Yunis? It's because this is the power base. Obviously, Yahya Sinwar, who's the Hamas leader in the region, that's why they're focused on this. But the key factor here, with increased density, they won't be able to do airstrikes the way they have been doing, the Israelis, because obviously massive increase in the number of civilian casualties. So it would have to be ground forces. That will inevitably involve more casualties from the Israeli Defence Forces as well as civilians on the ground. One of the options might have been that they would, having cleared from the north, actually move all the civilians back to the north because they could have controlled the access across the river, stopped Hamas leaving and then tackled the Hamas situation. But, of course, that would take the people away from the humanitarian aid support, which, of course, is absolutely vital. So now the IDF say that they're not going to stop this war until they've got all the hostages released. But I have to say, the more you look at this, the more the military operation is going to have a significantly greater number of casualties, and that's going to increasingly test the patience of the international community.
Yeah, certainly one to watch, isn't it? Sean, thank you very much.